As the girl described the trauma of being molested by her teacher, the accused teacher kept one hand hidden under the table, almost as if he were savoring the memory of what he had done. That one detail made Kevin realize right away that the girl's accusation was not made up. So Kevin immediately asked the judge for a short recess, then turned and rushed into the restroom. Now Kevin was trapped between two choices. He could follow his conscience and walk away, or he could keep defending a monster just to protect his perfect record. Just as he was struggling with that choice, a reporter walked in. The moment he walked in, he mocked Kevin and said this case would turn him into a joke in the legal world. Those cruel words stabbed right into Kevin's pride. In the end, vanity won, and he chose to betray his conscience and keep defending the scumbag. When Kevin returned to the courtroom, he was a completely different person. He brought up every rebellious thing the girl had ever done at school, twisting her into the image of a troubled, unreliable teenager. Then he smeared her even further, claiming she hated being punished and made up the molestation story just to get revenge. That upside-down argument fooled the jury, and the teacher was declared not guilty and released right there in court. After the case ended, Kevin immediately took his wife to a bar to celebrate saving his undefeated record. But while Kevin was still enjoying the thrill of victory, a strange man stopped him in his tracks. The man claimed he was a lawyer from a top New York firm, and he had come to invite Kevin to help with a case. Kevin thought he was joking and did not take it seriously, but the man pulled out a check for $10 million. Kevin did not understand why they specifically wanted him to take the case, but there was no way he could turn down that kind of money. After arriving in New York, Kevin immediately threw himself into work. His strongest weapon was reading people. With one glance, he could spot exactly which jurors would work in his favor. Sure enough, Kevin easily won his first case in New York, and that victory earned him the appreciation of the firm's boss. The firm's boss was John Milton, a legendary figure in the industry. Milton had always had a sharp eye for talent. After a few brief greetings, he led Kevin up to the rooftop terrace. Other than an infinity pool, there was only a narrow walkway leading to an outer terrace, with no guardrails anywhere. One look was enough to make Kevin's stomach drop. But Milton stayed completely calm. He even seemed to enjoy standing above the city, looking down on everyone below. Milton then told Kevin that the whole setup had been a pressure test. Extreme pressure forces people to face their real selves, and according to Milton, that is the only road to success. But Kevin, who had fought his way up from a small town, saw things much more plainly. The force driving him had always been real, tangible money. To make sure Kevin stayed, Milton directly arranged a luxury apartment for him. Only the company's top executives were usually allowed to live in that building. The higher the position, the higher the floor. Milton himself lived on the top floor. Kevin and his wife Mary took the elevator up to the apartment on the 12th floor. The moment they stepped inside, both of them were stunned. The apartment was not only spacious and open, but also filled with great natural light. The open plan layout made the whole place feel even more upscale. Even their neighbor Jackie said with a hint of envy that suites like this were usually reserved for partners at the firm. The fact that Kevin could move in right after arriving showed just how highly the boss valued him. Mary could hardly believe the bright, spacious apartment in front of her. Soon both of them were completely swallowed by this beautiful and privileged new life. But they had no idea that every gift they had received already carried a hidden price tag. To welcome Kevin to the firm, Milton not only gave him his own office, but also held a high-level meeting just for him. Soon, Kevin took on his first case after joining the firm. The client had slaughtered a goat in his basement. After a neighbor reported him, prosecutors charged him with violating public health laws. The evidence in this case was solid, and there was almost no chance of winning. But Kevin understood exactly what this was. Milton was testing him, and the outcome would decide whether Kevin could truly earn his place at the firm. So over the following days, Kevin devoted himself completely to studying the case, while Mary stayed busy decorating their new home. At first, everything seemed to be moving in the right direction. But once the excitement faded, Mary began to feel painfully empty inside. After being cut off from her old social circle, she spent every day in a daze and lost interest in everything. On top of that, Kevin left early and came home late every day, leaving no time for her at all. The hollow, repetitive life made her increasingly restless and depressed. With his exceptional legal skills, Kevin finally found a breakthrough in the case. In court, Kevin argued that the client had not disturbed public health by slaughtering the goat. He said it was part of a traditional religious ceremony, and the judge happened to understand that area. In the end, Kevin won the case smoothly and passed Milton's test perfectly. Milton was extremely satisfied with his performance, and even threw a grand celebration dinner for the victory. It was Mary's first time at such a high-end dinner. She was nervous and uneasy, so she kept reminding Kevin not to leave her alone at the party. But not long after they entered the party, Kevin completely forgot his promise. He stepped onto the balcony and unexpectedly ran into Allison, the red-dressed lawyer he had seen at the firm. Her fierce beauty and dangerous charm immediately pulled Kevin in. Just as the two of them were enjoying their conversation, Milton suddenly appeared. But he was not there to interrupt on purpose. Something urgent had happened. The firm's biggest client, Cullen, had officially been charged with murdering his wife, his stepson, and his maid. The brutal massacre had shaken the entire city. Milton planned to put Kevin fully in charge of this major case, but the managing partner Eddie strongly objected. Eddie feared Kevin would replace him, so he pushed hard for Milton to give the case to a senior lawyer. But Milton still insisted on putting this difficult, high-profile case in Kevin's hands. Seeing the boss place so much trust in him made Kevin's confidence swell. He was desperate to prove himself right away. But when he returned home full of excitement, he finally remembered the promise he had made to Mary. Mary's hurt from being abandoned at the party had reached its breaking point. No matter how Kevin explained or apologized, she refused to accept it. She would not even share the bed with him. From this moment on, a crack began to form in their marriage. But Kevin had no time to comfort his wife. Every day, he buried himself in figuring out how to get Cullen acquitted. If he won this nationally sensational case, Kevin would become the hottest new lawyer in New York. He was not going to give up a chance like that. While Kevin threw himself into work, Mary's mental state kept getting worse, and she even began to hallucinate. One day, she went shopping with Jackie. One second, they were laughing and talking, and the next, Jackie's face twisted into a hideous demon. Mary was terrified out of her mind, and ran home as fast as she could. Pale and shaken, she told Kevin what had happened. She said that ever since they came here, it felt as if some invisible force had wrapped itself around her, slowly destroying her mind. But Kevin only thought she was stressed from moving to New York and trying to fit into the social circle here. He dismissed it as a hallucination and never truly took his wife's words seriously. Mary begged Kevin to take her away, but Kevin could not let go of the fame and status he had finally gained. More importantly, he was holding a case that could push his career to the very top. Kevin's neglect, along with the loneliness of being alone every day, pushed Mary into a worse state. At night, she kept hearing strange noises while trying to sleep. Seeing his wife's hollowed-out cheeks, Kevin finally realized how serious things had become and immediately took Mary to the hospital. But Kevin was stretched too thin at this point. With no other choice, he brought his mother from the countryside to help take care of his wife. The moment they arrived downstairs at the apartment building, they ran into Milton. When Kevin's mother saw him, her reaction was strangely tense. She barely greeted him before rushing back upstairs in panic. Early the next morning, his mother said she could not get used to living there. She packed her bags to go back home, and she wanted to take Mary with her. Kevin fought hard against it, but in the end, he could not change his mother's mind, so he had to let her leave first. Yet after his mother left, Kevin still threw himself into work without hesitation, completely ignoring his sick wife. When Milton learned about Kevin's situation, he told him to go home and take care of his wife. The case could be handed over to someone else. But Kevin refused without a second thought. He feared that if he gave up the case for Mary's sake, he might resent her later. That would only damage their marriage. Besides, Kevin did not want to miss this once-in-a-lifetime chance. He convinced himself that once he quickly won the case and made his name in New York, he would make everything up to Mary, because by then Kevin had already found the key clue in the case. Under Kevin's repeated questioning, Cullen personally admitted that he had been having a long-term affair with his female assistant. On the night of the murders, the two of them were meeting in private, which perfectly kept him away from the crime scene at the time of the murders. That was the strongest possible alibi. As long as the assistant testified about their relationship in court, Cullen could possibly be acquitted. To be safe, Kevin questioned the assistant before trial in the tone of a prosecutor. That was when he accidentally discovered a fatal flaw. As Cullen's longtime mistress, she could not name certain private details about his body. Kevin instantly realized he had been played. This was a trap set by Cullen from the start. Cullen had deliberately arranged false testimony and was using Kevin to help him escape punishment, just like the molestation case Kevin had handled before. And this time, the person Kevin was protecting was a killer who had murdered his wife and stepson. Once again, Kevin was caught between conscience, fame, and ambition. Furious, he went to Milton and confronted him, suspecting that Milton had known the truth all along. Milton remained cold and indifferent. He said it would not matter if Kevin lost the case. Maybe Kevin needed to taste failure for once. But Kevin had already been dragged too deep into the swamp of fame and vanity. He could no longer pull himself out. In the end, Kevin still chose to call the assistant to the stand and let her give false testimony, successfully clearing Cullen of all suspicion. But when a person does too much evil, punishment always catches up eventually. Sure enough, right after the trial ended, Kevin received news that something had happened to Mary. He rushed back without stopping, only to find Mary sitting in a church, naked under a bedsheet, staring blankly into nothing. Through tears, she told Kevin that Milton had entered their home that afternoon and violated her. But Kevin said that was impossible, because Milton had been in court the entire afternoon. He had no time to commit the crime. He decided Mary had lost her mind and sent his wife straight to a psychiatric hospital for treatment. Only then did the matter temporarily calm down. Because Kevin won the case, he was successfully promoted to partner at the firm. This left Eddie deeply unhappy. He privately found Kevin and warned him that if Milton let Kevin replace him as managing partner, he would expose all of the firm's criminal evidence. The next day, while Eddie was out exercising, several homeless men brutally murdered him under the excuse of stealing his wallet. Their faces twisted into savage, demonic expressions. Mary happened to witness it from nearby, which made her even more convinced that demons truly existed. Soon after, Eddie's family held a funeral for him. The firm's colleagues all came to mourn, and Cullen, the firm's biggest client, also attended with his daughter. But after they sat down, Kevin noticed something was wrong. Cullen kept rubbing his daughter's bare back, and the two seemed to have an inappropriate relationship. Kevin could not stand watching anymore, so he got up and left the church. Standing at the entrance, Milton did not stop him. Instead, he stared thoughtfully at the holy water in front of him. When Milton dipped his hand into the holy water, it began to boil. Yet his face did not change at all. He only looked up at the figure in the mural with a mocking, defiant smile. As soon as Kevin left the church, a Justice Department investigator stopped him and exposed Milton's filthy background. Milton was a demon who served the evil of the world. Every client the firm represented was secretly involved in crimes like arms smuggling, drug trafficking, and money laundering. At first, Kevin remained unmoved, until the investigator brought up the teacher who had molested the student. Yesterday, the police found the body of a 10-year-old girl in the trunk of his car. At that moment, Kevin finally understood that he had protected a monster just to satisfy his own vanity, and that mistake could never be undone. But before Kevin could even process the truth, a car came speeding in and slammed into the investigator, killing him on the spot. After that, Kevin went to the psychiatric hospital with a heavy heart, wanting to spend some time with his wife, only to find that his mother had returned from the countryside. His mother kept blaming herself for not forcing Mary to leave back then, which had led to the tragedy now unfolding. Seeing that her son also seemed troubled, his mother pulled him into the hallway to talk. But not long after the two of them left, something happened to Mary again. In the mirror, Mary saw Kevin's colleagues reveal their true demonic forms, and terror finally shattered her completely. She drove everyone out, then dragged a chair over and wedged it hard against the door as if that could keep the demons outside. Outside the door, Kevin pounded on it in panic while softly begging Mary to open up. But inside, Mary's eyes were hollow, and the demon's whispers kept echoing in her ears. In the end, pushed to the edge by total collapse and despair, she picked up a shard of glass from the floor and ended her life. Kevin watched his wife die horribly right in front of him. Only then did he finally believe everything she had said. But by then it was far too late. His mother finally confessed the secret of his birth, a secret she had hidden for more than 30 years. Many years ago, she met a waiter in a New York restaurant who knew the Bible by heart. Not long after the two fell in love, she discovered she was pregnant, but the man vanished without a trace. Heartbroken, she still could not bring herself to end the pregnancy, so she returned to her hometown and planned to raise Kevin alone. And the waiter his mother spoke of was none other than Milton. He was Kevin's biological father. That day downstairs at the apartment building, Kevin's mother recognized Milton at first sight. That was why she kept avoiding his eyes. Only now did Kevin realize that for all these years, Milton had been secretly controlling everything, playing every person like a piece on his board. The truth completely shattered Kevin's last psychological defense. He took a gun and went to confront Milton face to face. But Milton did not hide a thing. He calmly admitted every crime, including the torment he had inflicted on Mary. Milton's indifferent attitude pushed Kevin over the edge. Kevin opened fire, but even after emptying the magazine, Milton did not have a single scratch. Only then did Kevin finally understand that Milton was Satan himself, the source of all evil. Milton tried to calm Kevin down, saying he never controls people's will. Every choice Kevin made had been Kevin's own free decision, to protect his perfect record. And for money, fame, and status, Kevin betrayed his conscience again and again to defend criminals. He even neglected his wife until she took her own life. Every tragedy had been caused by his own hands. The truth was, Kevin loved himself more than he loved Mary. And that, Milton said, was human nature. Kevin did not want to face any of it, but none of it could be denied. Once Milton saw that Kevin seemed to have accepted reality, he called Allison out. Seeing Allison appear there left Kevin deeply confused. What shocked him even more was that Allison was actually his half-sister. Milton's ultimate plan was far more insane than Kevin could have imagined. Milton had left countless children in the human world, but most of them were mediocre and useless. Only Kevin and Allison were truly gifted. So Milton wanted them to produce offspring and build a massive family powerful enough to overthrow heaven. Kevin then pretended to be seduced and slowly walked toward Allison, the woman he had been unable to resist. Just when Milton thought his plan had worked, Kevin suddenly raised the gun and took his own life, ending the cycle of evil. With his plan destroyed, Milton erupted in rage. His face and body slowly twisted until he finally turned into Kevin's form. The next second, the scene returned to the restroom at the very beginning. Everything that had just happened seemed like an absurd nightmare, and Kevin had been sent back to his original moment of choice. When he saw the girl in court again, the girl harmed by the teacher, and then saw Mary sitting safely in the gallery, regret flooded through him. He finally understood what truly mattered. Then Kevin announced on the spot that he would stop defending the teacher who molested the student, and that he was willing to accept every consequence. Everyone in the courtroom was stunned. This time, Kevin chose his conscience, and his wife fully supported his decision. But what Kevin never expected was that the cycle of vanity had never truly ended. After Kevin left the courthouse with his wife, the same reporter who had mocked him offered an exclusive interview, hoping to turn him into a righteous lawyer who stood up for justice. That would not only help him keep his law license, but also raise his profile across the legal world. A flicker of hesitation passed through Kevin's eyes, but greed quickly swallowed it. Once again, he accepted the offer for the sake of vanity. clearly falling back into the same trap. The Devil's Advocate is not simply a religious thriller. It is a snapshot of America's capital-driven legal world in the 1990s. The legal services industry had been fully commercialized. Lawyers were no longer guardians of justice. They had become tools for capital and profit. While victories, fame, status, and wealth became the only standards that mattered, the elite law firm Satan builds in the film is a true reflection of the glamorous chaos within the elite circles of that era. Kevin's fall was never just an accidental personal tragedy. It was the inevitable result of an entire industry's distorted values. In the end, Kevin breaks the cycle through suicide, redeems himself, and completes his awakening as a human being. But ordinary people do not get a chance to start over. We may never meet the devil in this lifetime, but everyone is trapped in desire's chess game, unable to break free. True blessing is not only resisting temptation from the outside, it is holding on to the conscience and bottom line inside your heart while drifting through fame, status, and wealth.